Good evening, everyone. I'm Riley King, and welcome to the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. We have a lot of news to get to this Friday evening, so let's begin. First up, juvenile arrested in connection with death of man in Antrim, officials say. Woman, child found standing outside home, officials say. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Ray Brewer.
At Beltates, customers will find everything they need for a building project. The brand names you trust to perform. And with a fleet of over 50 delivery vehicles, we deliver when and where our customers need them. Beltates Building Products. 9 locations throughout New Hampshire and Massachusetts.
Just before 3 a.m., the call came in, reporting a fire at 5 Greg Lake Road in Antrim.
The first unit's on the scene. We gained entry into the building. We had a heavy smoke condition.
The chief says outside the home was a woman and a boy that appeared to be about 6 years old. The woman telling him that she woke up to the sound of smoke detectors going off. Entering the home, firefighters began a search to see if anyone was trapped inside.
We did find a male on a couch, which we extricated him out of the building.
The man, according to the chief, had suffered significant trauma and was already deceased. That death has been labeled suspicious by the Attorney General's office. Firefighters didn't find anyone else inside the home, and after a few minutes they were able to trace the fire back to the source.
The room off the side of the kitchen looked like it was kind of like a sitting room. We found that a large easy chair had been on fire and it had extended into the wall a little bit.
The fire was quickly extinguished and no firefighters were injured. Later in the morning, crime scene tape now surrounded the home as the investigation into the death and the fire continued. Investigators with the State Fire Marshal's Office and members of the state police continuing to gather evidence. The Attorney General's office adding that the incident appears to be self-contained. We are told that the Attorney General's office could be releasing some more information later this afternoon. Reporting live in Antrim, Ray Brewer, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Kamala Harris cuts staff, closes 3 field offices in New Hampshire as she goes all in on Iowa. California Senator cancels New Hampshire visits next week while file for first in the nation primary by mail or sergeant, not in person. Following up on her decision to go all in on Iowa, California Senator Kamala Harris is drastically cutting back her staff in New Hampshire as she closed 3 of her 4 campaign offices. Thousands of Granite Staters without power after wind blew through overnight. Wind gusts above 40 miles per hour knocked out electricity in some spots. And even here at the Riley King Network, we lost power twice today. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
Now, crews are cleaning up damage from strong winds and rain that we had overnight, and that includes this stretch of Route 175 in Thornton, where a tree fell on some wires and caused a small fire. And New Hampshire State Police posted this photo of a downed tree on the seacoast this morning. Power outages have fluctuated throughout the morning. There are currently 35,000 customers without their electricity.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And now let's take a look at your U.S. stock market and see how your U.S. stock market closed for this Friday evening. And here's a look at that U.S. stock market for all of you for this Friday evening. Your Dow Jones Industrial Average closed in the green and went up. Your Nasdaq closed in the green and went up. S&P 500 closed in the green and went up. Gold closed in the green and went up. Oil closed in the green and went up. U.S. 10-year closed in the green and went up. Euro/USD closed in the green and went up. And VIX closed in the red and went down. S&P Dow jumps 300 points. S&P 500 rallies to record close as strong October job data. Stocks rose sharply on Friday as investors' sentiment got a lift from much stronger than expected U.S. jobs report. Elizabeth Warren releases Medicare for All plan. Let's take a listen to that video from ABC News.
If you haven't been keeping up with the 2020 race, we're going to check in on it now, because if you watch the last debate, a lot of questions about how Senator Elizabeth Warren intends to pay for Medicare for all. Well, today she actually released her plan, and I want to bring in our Deputy Political Director, Mary Alice Parks, in our D.C. Bureau. Mary Alice, I just want you to tell us how this is going to work. That's what everyone wants to know.
Right. Well, Senator Elizabeth Warren has said she has a plan for everything, and now she finally has a plan for this. You're exactly right that the questions continued to dodge her everywhere she went, not only from reporters, but even from voters on the campaign trail were saying day in and day out, you got to tell us how you're going to pay for this, because we know that a Medicare for all plan would be a huge expense for the federal government. In principle, what she is proposing, along with Senator Bernie Sanders, is that the federal government would provide free health insurance to every American, and so there wouldn't be those deductibles and co-pays or insurance premiums. And so that's really expensive. So you're right. We now finally have a plan from Senator Elizabeth Warren that covers about $20 trillion for 10 years. So how does she propose paying for it? Largely, she will change her wealth tax. She already has proposed a tax on the wealthiest Americans. This would increase the tax to 6% on every dollar for those who have $1 billion in assets and savings. She also proposes big cuts in military spending, but that last bullet point there is really important. She is proposing that $8.8 trillion comes from private companies that already currently pay for private insurance for their employees. They would continue to pay. They would just pay the federal government more in taxes so that the federal government in turn could provide health insurance.
Yeah, so this was just released today, but have you heard any of the concerns that people may have about this plan? Like, do people have to abandon their private plans that they have right now?
Sure. A lot of her opponents say that her math doesn't quite add up. There are more moderate Democrats who say that this is just not realistic. And yes, there's also that political concern. There are a lot of Democrats who say this is not a winning position to tell the average American that they would have to give up their private health insurance, which they might like, in order to get health insurance from the federal government. But Senator Warren and Senator Bernie Sanders seem to be full steam ahead with this idea. They say that people don't like their insurance, they just like their doctors.
All right, Mary Alice Parks in our D.C. Bureau, thank you for the insight. And to continue this discussion, I want to bring in the former North Dakota Senator Heidi Heitkamp, also an ABC News contributor. She joins us on the phone. What do you think of this plan?
Well, I think that, once again, the devil's in the details, and it's really too early for people to evaluate. What's probably going to be more interesting is to see what other Democratic candidates do with this plan. Are they going to be hypercritical? What is the mayor going to say? What is Amy Klobuchar going to say? What are people going to say about this plan itself?
Hi, everyone.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And that is it for this evening edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all have a great rest of your evening, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for another newscast. and I'll have a news report coming up in a little bit. Good night and bye, everyone.